You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Can you believe it's November? Where did the year go? Oh my goodness, we're wrapping this thing up. But we're coming into my favorite time of the year. Holiday seasons, family getting together. It's just kind of fun. So Halloween's over. It's just lots of kids, lots of grandkids. This is kind of a special time. And so it's nice to see that happening. So looking forward to it. This is also a great time in your gardens. So this is when November is when the last of the fall colors show up. What you'll notice is there's a wave of different plants turning color at different times. It doesn't all happen at the same time out in the landscape. So you're seeing the maples are finishing up. So they've been in color for several weeks. The amber maple or flame maple, they've been in color for 2-3 weeks. And they might, the next windstorm, they're going to be done. Not just completely bare. The elms are starting to turn color now. They turn in the month of November. Same with the Bradford pears or ornamental pears. Actually, fruiting pears the same way. So there's fruiting fruit trees, and there's varieties that have the same spring-fall color. So beautiful white flowers. This is ornamental pears. Nice glossy leaf about the size of a silver dollar, and then it's one of the last trees to turn red. It's just starting to show right now. By Thanksgiving, another 3 weeks. It'll be glorious red, just stunning, bright red colors. Ginkgos have been gold colored, so they're now finishing up. So aspens have been spectacular this year. Oh my goodness. Of course, the next windstorm, they'll be done. So they kind of start, the end of September. October is a really good color month, and then November. It's a really good color month. By December 1, there ain't nothing left. It's all done. So you'll have maybe some straw-colored leaves on, like sycamores. Everyone thinks a sycamore, Arizona sycamore, or the London plain sycamore is a fall-colored tree. It's got a maple leaf to it, thinking, oh, this will be great color. Really, it's not that good for fall color. It's a tremendous shade tree, fast growing, big leaves, deep, dense shade, but I would not classify it as a great fall colored plant. The leaves turn from green to brown most years. Sometimes you can see some gold colors on there, and then the leaves, they stick on the leaf, on the branch. They don't fall off. So they're kind of a dirty tree. They have a long drop cycle. So for me, I would like to put sycamores in the back pasture where they can make a mess and I don't care and they're just back there. But I wouldn't plant one on the street as a street tree. It's just too messy. I wouldn't plant one down the driveway or near my back patio or anywhere near my gutters because you'll never get all the leaves out. They'll forever be dropping leaves all winter long. They finally get done dropping their leaves about when spring hits and they're flushing their new leaves out. So that's just my personal preference. I know I offended some of you sycamore lovers, but that's just not me. I think there's better choices that grow large, that have dense shade, that are better trees, that are easier to take care of and easier to clean up after, and mainly have better fall color. A couple of them that I really personally like. I love the fast-growing red maple varieties. That's your blaze maples, your sienna or sunset maples, your what else? Well, my mind's going. State Street has a great fall color. Petticoat maples have great magenta and gold kind of color on the same leaf. Those are great choices, and when they get done, all the leaves drop at once. Elms. I don't like the Siberian elm or Chinese elm. They're kind of dirty, diseased. I mean, if there's a disease within a 10-mile radius, this tree will get it. This is the native elm that just comes up kind of weedy, throws off thousands of seed. They come up everywhere. I would never plant one, not even in my enemy's yard. I mean, it just is that nasty. But there's frontier elm, sunshine elm, Princeton elm. There's a whole series of elm trees that have great fall color. Some of them have red fall color, not just gold. They don't have the elm leaf skeletonizer. They don't get a disease or a bug that gets on them like the native one. And they don't get the slime flux. It's just a better tree, fast growing, takes the wind, great fall color. All the leaves drop at once, and it's not seedy. It doesn't have seed in the spring that just pollute everywhere. Those are good choices for fall planting. You can find them now, plant them now, watch them grow next spring. You have tremendous growth by planting it now and then taking care of it through winter, and then watch it just explode with new spring growth. That's what you're going to want for a big shade tree. I think that aspen are a great classic mountain fall colored tree. Now, right now, you'll just see the classic white bark on the tree. Most of the leaves are pretty much done, but you have this interesting structure. You can plant them pretty close to foundations. They're not famous for lifting up walls and that kind of stem walls, that kind of stuff. I think you plant one now, enjoy it. Wrap Christmas lights around them. They're beautiful even without their foliage. And then you'll get that nice fall, nice spring growth next year. Good time. Fast growing tree. Give it some space. It's going to shoot to the moon, but it doesn't get that wide. So I personally use aspens and birch up and down my west-facing wall. It's a west-facing 2-story house, blistering hot walls in summer. And I'm using those out towards the property line to give me shade. And they've done it in pretty short order. Great choice for the mountains of Arizona. One that I really like, that if you like xeriscape or native type drought hardy plants, one I really like, I guess there's two. One has hard shade. One has more of a filtered shade. One is purple robe locust. It's got a great fall color, much like an aspen, same color. Smaller leaf, rows of leaves, much like a locust has. But in the spring, about Mother's Day, you can count on it. Mother's Day, it's going to have these beautiful wisteria purple flowers. It's just stunning. Fast growing, drops all its leaves, no real disease. It's a pretty fast growing, low maintenance kind of tree. The other cousin to that is the golden honey locust. This one, all the new foliage comes out in spring, gold. It has this nice lacy structure to it, kind of a filtered shade to it. Gets up maybe, 35, 40 feet tall. Pretty good size. Nice umbrella shape to it. But then the leaves will turn green after the spring growth. So it's through the summer, it's green. And then the last color, as it drops its foliage, is gold again. So it starts gold, ends gold. It's a great tree. Super drought hardy. That particular variety does not get a seed pod. Actually, neither one of those varieties get a seed pod. Many of the locusts get a real big bean that hangs down from the tree. They've bred those out of those two, the purple robe locust or the golden locust. They've bred all that out. So now you just have you've got the pretty tree without the mess. Those are good choices for fall color. And I think that all of your fruit trees, whether it's a fruit tree like an apple, pear, cherry, peach, any of those have great fall color, but you're going to have to deal with the fruit. Some of you want that, some don't. They make varieties of fruit trees that don't fruit. So you get the beautiful pink and red colors of an apple flower, but then it doesn't fruit. Then it gets a nice structure to it, has pretty foliage. Then the fall colors will be oranges and reds typically. Pears, you can get a fruiting pear like a Basque, Asian pear, which is more like an apple pear, or your Bartlett's, which is the most popular. Kind of I don't think it's the best tree, but the most popular. The fruit, you got to process it right now. There's no window. I want a little bit longer window to process, 8 bushels of fruit. The counter to that would be an ornamental pear, like a Bradford pear, Cleveland pear. What are some of the others? Anyway, they're the Sentinel. There's several varieties of just pretty pears. They're beautiful white flowers in spring, stunning red fall color. Oh, they're great trees from the mountains of Arizona. Got a lot in store this show. Be right back with more garden tips.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Coral Queen Kale.
This unusual plant has deeply serrated foliage with deep green outer leaves and a very dark crimson center.
She is definitely the queen of the autumn garden.
This crop has huge feathery leaves that form large heads the size of beach balls.
Very, very pretty and all for under $10.
Waters Garden Center, the place for people who love very pretty plants. They love to shop. You know how to find us.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and her ivory feathers pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf variety grows only 5 feet, making it easier to care for.
In feathery bloom now with long ivory plumes held tall above the flowing green foliage.
At $39, this perfect pampas grass is ready for fall planting while supplies last.
Only grown here at Waters Garden Center, the place where people who love ivory feathered grasses, they love to shop. You know where to find us.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we've got Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are your neighbors talking about? Wanted to get that over the airwaves somewhere, somehow. And so when the grasshoppers hit Chino Valley, they probably also hit Prescott Valley, and they also hit Camp Verde, and they kind of just this wave of pestilence gathers in biblical proportions all over the place. And so we can share that when it happens, when the aphids get into the pine trees, when the purple robe locust blooms. It blooms pretty much throughout the whole mountain region, not just in your backyard. So we share that. What's in bloom, what's going on, what to look for. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you.
So what you got for us this week?
Well, we got some good questions. First one is from Janet. She has some beautiful geraniums she got this year. She would like to winter them over.
Okay.
So she's asking for tips to help her successfully winter over her geraniums inside.
Oh, inside, I was going to say, find a friend or family member in Phoenix and just take them down there, which is what we do, because Phoenix, they will just shine and bloom nonstop. Up here, if you're going to keep them indoors, they have to be protected. They won't go down below 30 degrees or so. So you're okay outdoors until then. Right now, I would say get them ready to come inside. So put them in a shaded area. Have them out underneath your patio, underneath your overhang. Get them used to those darker rooms that you're going to have indoors. Secondly, there's things living in the soil. You need to be aware of that. You don't want to bring this thing indoors and then, 6-inch centipedes are crawling across your kitchen counter, frightening the puppy dogs. So those are things that it's going to happen. Prepare for that while it's still outdoors. You still got a couple weeks. I would say while it's underneath the patio in that shaded area, sprinkle some systemic granules. There's some systemic bug killers that goes through the soil. It kills off things in the soil, and then also the plant absorbs some of it, and it gets rid of aphids and mealybug and some things that show up inside, spiders, that kind of stuff. So put that on there. I would also say flush just sheer volume of water. Just sometimes you flush, some of that stuff will come out the bottom holes, and you'll be surprised. You'll be stunned going, oh my gosh, maybe I don't want this indoors. But those are some secrets that kind of help you. I would say now's also, they look innocent when they're on your patio, but when you bring them in your living room, a geranium can be ginormous. Now's the time to trim it back, get it under control, get it so it doesn't take as much real estate, and then bring it indoors. In a couple of weeks, just bring it right indoors, put a saucer underneath it, and it will continue to grow and bloom inside. Some folks don't have room. There they put it in their garage, and especially if it's got some light in there, a window or two, they'll put them in there and store them and just let them kind of go dormant, and they'll do just fine. The secret is don't let them freeze. Don't let that root ball freeze. If you do that, they can look terrible, But by next spring, you're going to bring them back outdoors in April. You'll trim them up, fertilize them, and then whoof, they just take off the new growth. I have one customer, maybe a couple, that actually whack them off. Like there's no foliage left. They actually whack them off at the root, store them in their crawl space. No light, no moisture, no nothing. It's just they completely let them go dormant. They actually survive underneath there with no care. They bring them back out, and then they water them, fertilize them, and put their green thumb touch, and they start to come back again. So if you've got a crawl space, that dugout basement area is kind of
It's cool,
dirty. Yeah.
But not freezing, but cool.
Those are some tips that'll, I think, help you. And you can do that for really passion vine, all those kind of house coleus. Yeah, those are all things that kind of are famous for becoming houseplants, going inside or outside. Just watch the insects. Yeah. There's stuff in that soil. I don't want you to be spooked when the living room becomes alive with crawly things.
That would be scary.
Systemic granules, and then I would say I'd even spray the foliage with some triple action. Come talk to us, and I should write an article on that and share that with folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next question is from Vince. He lives in Prescott Valley. He put in 4 large red fountain grass in his yard this year.
Yeah.
A neighbor just told him those won't winter over here. So his question is that true?
He's got a very smart neighbor. Red fountain grass does not, it's an annual grass. It's fabulous. We've got ours outside. We grow one every year in a container because there's nothing like that red grass with the plumes. It's just pretty. We fully expect it to die by the end of the year, so it's okay. It's an annual flower for another $7.99. You can buy another one next spring and have it grow again. Otherwise, if the roots freeze, they will definitely be goners. So the only way, I've never been able to get them to come back, and I've tried.
It's got a pretty high zone, like what, 9 or 10?
It's made for Phoenix or the deserts or Southern Cal. It's not made for here. So it's made for here as an annual to be fabulous through the growing season, and then forget it next spring. There are some perennial grasses like bunny grass and pampas grass and miscanthus and deer grass and bear grass. There's all kinds of grasses that are perennial, but none of them have that red foliage with that plume to it. Right. Closest would be probably coral forester grass. It's no red, but it's the same height, lush foliage, dark green leaves, and it has even a longer bloom cycle with this white plume up about hip high that fountain grass kind of has. Same size, same dimensions, just green instead of red. Yeah.
But still a pretty grass. Yeah. Very, very pretty. All right. And next question is from Rodney. He wants to know if he purchases a pine tree now to use as a living Christmas tree, how long can he keep it in the pot?
I'm getting that. A couple folks are starting to talk about that. Yeah. That's true. I think it's because we just got this big load of evergreens in, so people are looking and going, I need one of those. I wonder if I could use a Christmas tree while I get the landscape done. So you typically, what the book says, no more than 5 to 7 days. In the house. In the house. The furnace is what does it. It's so dry in your house, the plants wake up, the sap starts to flow, and it starts to be, and then you take it back outdoors in January, and then all of a sudden it's warm, and then you didn't put the parka back on it. It's not used to that cold, and so you got to have this transition to it. I would say if you're past 10 days indoors, that's really getting too much. So 7-10 days, that's pushing it. The bigger the plant, the shorter time it should spend indoors. The smaller the plant, the longer it can spend, just because it doesn't have as much foliage to dry out and to take care of. So what a lot of folks will do, they'll buy a pine tree, a juniper. I've even sold cherry trees or whatever as living Christmas trees. They'll decorate them. They'll put them on the front porch, on the deck. The cold is not going to hurt them. It's the warm that hurts them inside your house. So they're cold plants. They're made to go to minus 40 degrees. So if you wake them up and all of a sudden they're used to 70 inside your house, to take them right back out, they get stunned or shocked by that. So shorter is better.
So if you buy one, but you only keep it in the house a short time, but you don't want to plant it yet, it's fine staying in that grower's pot.
Absolutely.
Time, right?
It'll stay in there for till next spring. I would say you want to get it in the ground before it flushes growth next April or May. So you got months to get done. I wouldn't keep it in there for years and years because it's a bigger tree, because you're probably a Christmas tree with a smaller root. You want to get that in the ground, and you want to take advantage of the root growth that will happen next spring. So it actually becomes hardier before the heat of summer. So those are kind of things that I think will really help you. I've got a handout on that. Maybe we should print some out and have it at the register for folks that as they're buying evergreens, they go, oh, if it's just going to be a Christmas tree, here's how to take care of it. Here's how to bring it in, and here's how to transition it out. I could do a whole show on just that alone. But anymore, we sell more living trees than we do cut trees.
We do.
So it's amazing to see that transition from everyone had cut trees. Then they moved it to plastic, dust-smelling trees from China, and now they're on to living. And I think it's all the new home buying. Yeah. The new rooftops, the landscape's a little bare, and they want some landscape, and they want a Christmas tree, and it just naturally goes together.
That's a great idea, and it works out well. And how they say every year, there's a shortage on cut trees this year. So buy a living tree.
The same for the last decade. All right, Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners. We will be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our red wall creeping vine.
It's said good fences make good neighbors, but fences can be downright ugly.
This rich green climber is turning fire engine red through October with blue accent fruit. It's really pretty.
And very fast growing, and when planted at 8-foot intervals, covers a boring fence within a season, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love good neighbors, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken with the plants of the week and our Cheyenne Spirit coneflower.
This new native is an exclusive wildflower sure to delight and inspire.
The flowers change from purples to orange, then fade into a Cheyenne sunset.
Leave some of the seed head so that it spreads throughout the garden. Adds winter beauty that also feeds the birds through winter. And just $17.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love exclusive flowers, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
One thing to really watch as we cool down, if you've not adjusted your irrigation to the landscape, if you're still treating those plants like it was June and 95 degrees out, you're going to do some serious damage. You can kill plants now and not even know it till next spring just by over watering them. I would say as soon as we start to see frost consistently, you're back to about twice a month watering. Twice a month. That's all you need, 2 times a month. And if we get a real good snowstorm or rain event, I would say you cut one of those back. So plants do need to be watered year-round in the mountains of Arizona. Our moisture is just so inconsistent. So if that plant dries out midwinter, let's say January, February, first part of March, it's dry and we get a cold event, it can cause winter burn or winter damage. So it's where the tops or the tips of the plants kind of get killed off. If you simply water twice a month, you never have to worry about that. And so some of you, especially at the higher elevations, you've turned off and blown out even. You actually take compressors at the high elevations and blow out your irrigation so it's dry. You disconnect the backflow preventers. If you've done all that, it's okay. You still got a hose and a bib out there, and it's a frost-free bib. Connect a hose and manually water, especially those things that are new. They've only been in the ground for 12 to 18 months. Those are fairly new plants. They're going to need that consistent watering more consistent. So you need to care for them more. Once they're a couple years old and those plants have had 2 years of root growth, they're much tougher, much hardier. But if you've got a brand new landscape, this is important. Now, if you happen to lose a plant, it's okay. You happen to have a friend here in Prescott that owns a garden center. Be glad to sell you another one. But I would rather, again, we're just neighbors talking over the fence, talking to each other. Just here's what's worked for me. And I'd rather you not have any issues or have any problems. And one of the secrets, the insider tips, is we're not in the Midwest where it gets cold and it stays cold. We're not in the tropics, the Southern Californias, Tucson's, the deserts areas where it's warm and just everything's always growing all the time. We do shut down, but the plants are still actively using moisture, especially your evergreens. These are things like red tip Photinia, Elaeagnus, Euonymus, even your cotoneasters, spruce, your pine, your fir, your cypress, cedars, junipers, things that have foliage on them. It's so nice during the day at this high elevation, but I'd say below 6,500 foot level. These plants, it just doesn't get cold. It gets warm during the day, cold at night. So these plants are still actively using moisture. So you need to replenish that. They're perspiring. And so they're forming leaf buds and flower buds for next spring. If you just turn that system off and totally ignore them, you're going to have or have a high risk of damage. So just watch that. We saw a tremendous amount of death from last winter. Last winter, it was warm. It was a warm winter, if you can say that, and it was bone dry. That was, if you didn't water, you lost plants last year. You damaged them, or they turned ugly on you. If you'd simply watered a couple times a month by hand, it would have been no issues at all, and you never knew there was a problem. So that's something to kind of watch. Turn the irrigation back. Right now I'm watering every 10 days my plants. So I adjusted the clocks. The trees and shrubs every 10 days, container plants every 3 days. The thyme lawn is every 5 or 6 days, I forget. So I've scaled it back. And as we get colder, as we start to see hard freeze, I'll actually move that irrigation to water midday. So right now I haven't done that because it's been nice. It's chilly in the evening, but it's not chilly like freezing. So I'm not worried about that. By December 1, I'll adjust my clock. I keep it on year round. And so I never turn my system off. I'll water midday so that I don't have ice forming out the emitter heads. Right now it's pre-dawn, dawn time frames. And so that's how I'm personally watering. Plus, I've got a smart satellite-fed computer irrigation system, so it knows when it's freezing and automatically delays it by a couple hours. It'll go so many hours past sunset or sunrise. But mainly I'll force that to happen midday as we get closer. In another 4 weeks or so, I'll water midday, but I'll still water at least twice a month my entire landscape, especially the new things. Does that help you out? So hopefully we're making you a smarter gardener just by tuning in. That's one bit of advice that'll make a difference in your winter gardens.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, red mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This Fire Alarm mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the Plants of the Week and our Regal Petticoat Maple.
If you love maples but want superior leaf color, then this is your shade tree.
Regal maple leaves are glossy green on top with a velvety purple underside.
Through autumn, the petticoat leaves turn gold on top and red on the bottom side. I mean, wow!
This is a great shade tree for just $99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love regal maples, they love to shop. And we have Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes back. She gets pretty much her segment of the show is all about the gardeners, just what's going on in the gardens. How do you make them beautiful? How do you care for them? What tips can we get from a different gardener's perspective in the yard? And Lisa is truly a hardcore gardener. So it's good to have that woman's touch, my better half's touch. And so you don't get this monologue of, here's Ken talking about gardening for an hour straight.
I'm sure they would love it.
No, yeah. Welcome back, Lisa.
Thank you.
So what you got for us this week?
Well, as the season progresses, a lot of our yards are starting to look a little, the blooming.
Dead?
Yeah. Going to sleep, I always say. They're going to sleep. But those things that were flowering or they're deciduous shrubs, they're have lost their leaves or going to lose them very, very shortly. Yeah. And it's a good time to kind of look at your yard and go, geez, I'm not going to have anything green this winter. It's going to be all just sticks in the ground and in buckets. So it's a good time to think about where you would want to place some evergreen shrubs in your yard. And I know, and I'm sure you know, I'm going to put you on the spot, what percentage of your yard should be evergreen?
Oh, well, 20%. So the book, I'm just quoting the book, right. 20% evergreens, 20% spring bloomer, 20% summer bloomer, 20% fall color, and then the last 20% is just whatever makes you happy and giddy and feel good. And plant that. So if you like more evergreens, we could make 40% evergreens. But you should have something each season. Something should be showy. Going, oh, that's neat. Oh, I didn't have that. Lilacs in spring, and then crepe myrtles in summer, and then the amber maples or flame maples in the fall, and then now it's spruce and pine and those evergreens. You're saying broadleaves. That's going to be your red tips and cotoneasters and.
Well, don't give it all away.
Oh, okay. Oops, sorry. I was just rolling it off.
I know, get carried away as usual. But a lot of the yards, especially on the newer homes, the landscape was put in by a company. It was just kind of thrown in by, we got to have 3 of something and 4 of that. And there's really not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. And sometimes everything goes dormant and you got absolutely nothing. And sometimes it just looks funny. The numbers are wrong. You just get a weird feel when you look at the yard. So now is a good time to take a good look at it, because with things going dormant, it gives you a different perspective.
I think a lot of the Midwest folks really notice this. They're from where they don't plant grass. They just mow weeds that become grass. It's lawns and trees are everywhere. Here we've got rock lawns, which are fine as long as you've got some foliage on your plants. The second some of that foliage drops, first of all, it's irritating that your pristine rock is now messed up, but then there's nothing left. You've got bare yard rock, you've got some boulders, kind of bare, you've got trees that are bare, you've got your vines have dropped, and now it just looks naked. And so this is when your evergreens become extremely important, more important than other parts of the country because of the rock influence that we have in the landscapes here.
Right. Definitely true. So I was going to talk about some of the shrubs that are nice evergreen shrubs that do wonderful here, that are going to give you those splotches of color that you definitely need in the yard.
So what would be some of those?
Well, let me tell
broadleaf
you,
evergreens. We just tee up here.
Well, there's one that I love, Nandina. And I know sometimes it gets overused and people go, oh, not another Nandina. But there's a really pretty one called Moyer's Red. It gets to be a good size, 4 or 5 feet. I love the color on this one because it definitely has that fall red look to it. But the nice thing about it is it's going to keep that look all through winter. I had to replace one of our Nandinas in our front pot, so I put a Moyer's in because I liked it. And it's just gorgeous. It looks so pretty with the pansies and the violas with it. Really like the look on it. But there's also Gulfstream, which is like a little dwarf one. It gets about, 3 feet? There again, gets really nice red color, and it stays that way.
So we should mention Nandina will grow, or heavenly bamboo. For some folks, some parts of the country, they call it heavenly bamboo. The other calls it Nandina. The same plant. the more sun they get, the brighter the colors are on them. They'll grow in full shade. But if they're in full shade, they'll just kind of stay this pretty soft green. So the more sun, I think the more interesting they get. And they'll tolerate any amount of brutal sun you got. And animals don't eat Nandina.
I know. It's amazing. Tough little plant. And then you mentioned, of course, the photinias, red tip photinia. There again, it can kind of be overdone in some yards. But there's some good places for it, especially if you're trying to screen a neighbor or a neighbor's yard or their RV or their dogs. I don't know. But it's really pretty when that new growth comes on, the bright red colors. And it gets big. 10 by 10 easily.
Yeah.
And
or
even bigger if you
don't put it
really
right next to your house, because it will grow up to the eave and then over the eave, and then take over the roof line if it's a one-story house. So it's for fence lines and property lines. It's for further out, not right next to the house.
Yeah, we have a neighbor that has, I think, 2 or 3 planted right by their front door, and literally you can see the little pathway, and maybe that's what they want. I don't know. But it's like swallowing the house up. So you do have to be careful.
A lot of folks misplace those. That's the contractors come in because they're such a fast grower. They're cheap plants to buy. And so you'll get a lot more plant for the money. And so they'll just load up a landscape with these red tip photinias, and they're in the wrong place. They're just big right next to the front door. Yeah. So be strategic. Ask for help with where to plant those. Right. But when they're planted right, they're fabulous.
Definitely. Red clusterberry cotoneaster, another one of my favorites. I just love the way it grows. It does kind of get a almost bronzy winter color to it, but the really fabulous thing is it puts on red berries. So just really pretty to look at through the wintertime. It's another one, 6 by 6, good screening one. There again, maybe you don't want it right up against the house if you have a one-story house. But just performs really, really well. And it has a cousin called the gray leaf cotoneaster that I swear it's one of my favorite plants out in yards because it has that gray leaf to it that keeps year round. It just shows up really nicely against other plants.
Especially darker plants. That bright silver gray is really striking. It's a designer's dream plant. So a good hedge, native, drought hardy, animals don't eat it. It's got a lot going for it.
It does, definitely does. Another one you can put out in the yard is the dwarf Alberta spruce. This guy is good in containers or in the yard because he grows slow. So he's not going to overtake any part of your yard at any one time because it's just a small, like a quarter-inch a year, half inch?
It's probably an inch or so. It just depends on the green. If you got really green thumbs, maybe you can get an inch.
Yeah.
If you don't have green thumbs, none. That's one you want to spend a little bit more money and get the size you like, because it'll be years before it grows to the size you want it to get up to.
But just for a smaller yard, they work really, really well. The golden euonymus, talk about color in wintertime. So the golden is a variegated yellow and green, and boy, does it pop in the yards in the wintertime. You got to be a little careful because the bunnies and the deer like it a lot, but if you've got a safe place to put it, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different euonymus you can play out there. So there's from winter creepers, another one. Only gets ankle high, creeps along the ground, has this bright purple foliage through winter, and then greens back up. So there's a lot of different interesting evergreen leafy plants you can put out there right now. And they're all on display. If you want to see what they're going to look like as we've had our first frost, they're starting to turn color, and that's kind of a cue to, you're starting to see that first leading edge of winter color, really. And then that same leaf that was green will turn red, and that same leaf will turn green again. So I don't know how it does it, but it's like magic. This plant just knows when it's all temperature related. It's day parts. It's a lot of going on with it. But now's a good time to plant, especially if you're doing screening. You want bigger plants. Now would be the time to set the stage for tremendous growth next spring, so you get more of a living wall out there in the yard. And we didn't even touch the conifer, the junipers and cypress and cedars.
The list is too long.
I know. Come in and take a look for yourself. Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners and the evergreens that will look good in your mountain garden.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our sizzling summer daisy.
This snow white daisy is a natural in the summer garden when tall white flowers are desired.
Highbrow enough to use in estate settings or amassed into formal beds surrounded by boxwood for under $12.
In entertainment areas, this sizzler literally leaps up under a full moon, easy to grow, and prefers planting during the monsoon.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love summer daisies love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our fragrant low sumac.
The cute foliage is fragrant when brushed against and utterly detestable to wildlife of all kinds.
A knee-high native that takes any abuse, loves wind, blistering hot sun, and rocky hillsides.
At $39, this hardy shrub is ideal for owners of investment and commercial rentals.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native sumac, they love to shop. You know, we started out the show with trees, just which are the best fall colored trees. And there's a whole lot of choices. I probably have, I don't know, hundreds of trees here at the garden center right now. All can be planted. So the garden centers, what we do is we'll front load the garden centers. We need enough inventory to get through winter, basically, through mid-February. And so landscapers, they're going to keep landscaping. They're going to keep putting plants in. They're going to keep, and it's okay to do that in the mountains. We're so mild that we can easily get away with that. So we have quite a number of fruit trees, shade trees, evergreens, shrubs, especially evergreen shrubs. We got to bring those in now before the frost and the colder nights of the end of December, January come, so that the plants are acclimated. So there's a lot to choose from. But we started out with which are the best fall colored trees. These are typically shade trees. Maybe some smaller ornamentals. I mean, some trees like redbuds, crabapples, purple leaf plums. I mean, purple leaf plum, that's a pretty fall colored tree, but it's purple when it starts. It's purple in the summer. It's purple in the fall. It's not a great fall colored tree. It's an all the time colored tree. So I wouldn't put it in that definition. But some, like crabapples or birch, or ginkgos, beautiful trees. So how do you plant a tree in the mountains of Arizona? I thought I'd touch on that. And there is a technique that really works. And then there's a lot of rumors and wives' tales and just blunders. There are certain ways to do it well and successful, and there's certain ways you don't. I thought I'd just cover the do's and don'ts. Shall we? Just go deep into this. So we're going to get technical. This is one if you're driving down the road, probably I want to pull over to the side for a moment and just take out the pen and paper so you can take notes. You'll be able to draw a picture of what to do. Or if you happen to come to the garden center, I've got it all on a handout. I'm just going to read this off. You can have it free. So if you don't want to take notes, just come ask for it. It's our planting guide. Every time you plant a tree, buy a tree or shrub from us, you get this guide. If we're planting, we come out, we install a tree or a shrub, a hedgerow for you, whatever. This is the technique that we use. All the planting crews plant the same way every time. It's just a matter of how much jackhammer time is needed. So here's how you do it. Let's say you're going to plant a typical, let's say a 15-gallon plant, a maple. This is a standard, it's maybe 18 inches deep by about 14, 15 inches wide. Standard grower, 15-gallon pot. You're starting to see the size of the tree be substantial. You see a trunk on this size. You're starting to see the structure or the branching of that tree at this point. And so it's pretty easy to plant that size tree and smaller. Anything larger than that, I don't try to install myself. It's just too heavy. I just don't want to do that anymore. I've had a couple back surgeries. It's just hard on me. If it's a 20-gallon or bigger, I just have my planting crew. I have them come out and plant it for me. And I'll set up a chair and I'll bake cookies, or Lisa will bake cookies. I'll take the guys water or tea or whatever, and I'll chit-chat with them while they're planting this. And this is how they do it. So the hole size, you've got to be able to dig a hole. If it's in a rock pile, don't try this, because it's not going to live. It's not going to drain. It's not going to perk. So that roots need to breathe in the soil. If you peck out a hole in a rock pile, you've basically dug a bathtub. So plants aren't really going to grow there. You need some soil. Now, it can be rocky soil. We can break those up, dig those out, digging bar, jackhammer time, and pull that out and replace it with some good, better soil. But when you dig your hole, it needs to be the same depth of whatever plant you're planting. And then it needs to be 3 to 5 times the width, kind of saucer shaped. So the roots go sideways. Roots do not go down. That's kind of a taproot myth. It doesn't go down and keep working its way, 30 feet down into the water table. It doesn't do that. It goes about 18 inches and then turns, hooks a right, and then just starts running just underneath the surface of the soil. If you know that's how the plants are going to grow naturally, no matter what you do, let's encourage the roots to grow that way. A lot of them. So we dig our hole kind of 3 times round shaped, kind of saucer shaped. And then if you run into a rock or something, old roots, debris that's been buried underneath there, dig all that stuff out. Anything bigger than a golf ball needs to go away, because all it does is in summer it just heats up and roasts or bakes the roots. We want smaller particles. The smaller soil sizes hold water molecules and will keep the moisture around that root. So we want to encourage that. So you're kind of screening. Some of you are going to have to really screen hard that soil. You get nothing but rocks. Some of you got nothing but clay. And there you're going to need to it just comes out in chunks. We need to break those chunks up. And then I'll tell you in a second how to keep those loose. So emphasize old roots, things that are bigger than a golf ball, get rid of them. So, and then throw them away. You don't need them. Use them as over the side of the hill to retaining block. We call that riprap. Rocks that kind of hold the hillside. So screen that soil. After you get done, you've got some soil there. You've taken all that dirt and put it on a tarp or push the rock to the side or have a wheelbarrow or something. When you get done, we'll need to add some organic matter to that soil. There's no naturally occurring native kind of good stuff. There's no compost or topsoil in your yard. Most of it, if there was any, has been scraped off to the side by a backhoe when the builder came in and scraped off your lot to build your house. And so you need to replenish some of that topsoil that the contractor scraped off to the side. The easiest way to do that is we make a product that's locally sourced called premium mulch. It's composted bark products. And so you compost it down for a year or so. It looks real chocolatey. So you want to amend the soil with about 25% mulch to your native soil. So if it's real sandy, it will hold that moisture around the root ball so it doesn't perk, so it doesn't drain too fast. If it's heavy clay soil, it's going to help to keep that soil from getting all gooey and compressing back down into a brick. So it fluffs up that soil. If you had to pull out a gigantic rock, you can go up to about 50% mulch to your native soil. Don't go more than that because it's just too much. It'll stay too gooey. So a little bit's good. A lot, too much, over half. So 1 shovel's mulch to 3 shovels native soil. That helps you. So that's up to about 50-50. Okay. When you get all done, blend all that together and backfill around that root ball and just pack it down as tight as you can. Water it in. If the soil's really dry, which the soils aren't dry right now, we've had enough moisture where there's some moisture in the soil. I don't think you need to take this step, but in the dead of summer, I'll fill up half of that root ball, half that hole I dug. I'll fill it half with water. I'll blend up my mulch and my native soil, and I'll backfill around that. So I'm almost planting that root in a mucky, muddy mire. But what I'm trying to do is hydrate the surrounding soil. So I'm not watering my root ball, and the surrounding soil just wicks away all the water away from the root. I want to make sure that surrounding soil, the root ball and the surrounding soil, is moist. When I'm all packed in, I'm all watered in, I'll go ahead and fertilize. I'll take a handful of Water's 744 organic fertilizer. You need some sort of food in there as that plant roots, and it will root through the end of the year. As it roots, sends off those side hairs, it's got some nutrients that it wants to pick up. So it'll store that up in those root structures. That's what it's going to use to form next spring's root growth. and next spring's bud growth or next spring's flower growth if it's a fruit tree or a flowering tree. When I'm all finished, I'll go ahead and water it in with root and grow. It's a rooting hormone. So again, you've broken some root hairs and it can go into some minor shock. Even if it's got some leaves dropping off of it, it can go into some minor shock. The beauty of fall planting is it's very rare that's got a killing shock. In the spring, you've got that tender new growth, all those new leaves. That's pretty serious planting for plants. It doesn't like going from the bucket into the ground. This time of year, I don't care. But I'll water it in with root and grow to help it stimulate more root hairs coming out. If it's a large tree, I'll stake it. Actually, if it's any tree, I put stakes on either side and just tie off once, maybe twice for a really big tree. So in case it gets a real wind gust, it holds that tree upright. For evergreen trees, you're planted the exact same way. I'll also put 2 stakes on, no matter the height, because these evergreens can hold a lot of snow. I mean, like you can have 50, 60 pounds of snow load up in January, February, and the tree will just kind of fall over. Well, I want that tree to stay upright so I don't break any of those root hairs that have formed and have to start over. It doesn't hurt the tree, but it sure doesn't help it either. That's how you plant a tree in the mountains of Arizona, no matter what the elevation. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week in our yellow Echinacea.
We crossed a coneflower and black-eyed Susan and created an impressive new bloomer.
Free-flowering daisy-like blooms are cheery and loves full sun.
The 3-inch flowers are bigger, showier, and longer lasting through the heat of summer at just $14 while they last.
You'll only find them at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love new summer bloomers, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week in our Goldfinger Potentia.
A versatile knee-high shrub that charms with its cheery buttercup gold flowers.
A truly hardy perennial that loves to bloom in the hot, dry spaces in the garden.
With long fingers of fine foliage, it's an attention-getting foundation plant.
Deer, javelina, rabbits, no problems. They don't like the flowers or the foliage, and just $14.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love cheery summer shrubs, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
So I have some proud news that Waters Garden Center just got. Actually, we've gotten 2 accolades from the industry. This is a national or North American kind of stamp of approval for Waters Garden Center. So our family's been in business for 57 years. Lisa's father started the business, Harold Waters, and that's how Ken and Lisa Lane come to own Waters Garden Center. She's a Waters. Back to a quick story. I tried to get a job out of high school. This is in the early 80s. I tried to get a job here at Waters Garden Center, and they wouldn't hire me. We were past the peak, and they just didn't have a spot. So the only way I could get a job here was I married the owner's daughter and then went off to college, and we did our corporate thing for a while, and we missed our small town, came back and asked for a job in the family business. And he said yes. And so they've retired. When did they retire? 02. What is that? 16 years ago. And then we've just been running it ever since and getting bigger and better and stronger and smarter as we go. Well, as we get smarter, we are known in the industry as a top-tier garden center. So we just got the Best Practices Award from the Garden Center Group. This is a group of about 150 garden centers. These are the big players in the nation, from Canada all the way down to basically the U.S. If your best practice, 5 garden centers made this award, 1 in each region. And so we are the Southwest's top garden center for best practice. We treat our employees well. We have good sales, good vendor relationships, good community relationships. We make money. We don't just lose it. And so they see your financials. They know how much you advertise. They know what benefits you have. They know which vendors. It's ridiculous how much, you are completely naked when you stand in front of this group. And they said, well done, Waters Garden Center. So that's my team, Mike. The team here at Waters Garden Center. You guys are awesome. You do great. So well done. Accolades. Way to go. We also got another one. We just made the very first time ever. We made the top 100 list of garden centers in the country. This is the top largest garden centers in the country. This isn't North America. This is just the U.S., but we just made number 97. We're number 97, but we're going against folks like Rogers Gardens in Southern California. They're in the center of the economic universe. You could stumble your face first into money over there. It's just easy because everyone's got so much. So here in the mountains of Arizona, these little towns, you've got to be better because you live in such a vacuum. You can't go out an extra 5 miles and find another 100,000 customers. If you do it well, people reward you. If you do it badly, the word of mouth crushes you instantly. You don't make it. So you see a lot of turnover. Summer Winds, they made the list, like number 10, but they've got 5 stores. I've only got 1. How do you compete with that? But we made the top 100 list, number 97. Hopefully we'll move up. So as the town grows, we're able to grow with it. But that's, again, my staff does such a great job. But we treat our customers well and our vendors well, and customers appreciate that. We show it off well. We have great knowledge. And so that's kind of what we do. So just a big promotion. Usually I'm promoting other nonprofits. But sometimes your team needs to be recognized for what they do really, really well. And our team here at Waters Garden Center, you guys are awesome. Fun to work with, and you know stuff, and you're smart, and you're good retailers, and you're being rewarded for that, and you're being recognized for that. Actually, I've lost some staff. I've got one of my general managers. He's now consulting for the industry. He got that smart and by working here. So that's what we want. We want our folks to leave better than they came, more knowledgeable, more enriched, and that's our goal here at Waters Gardens. And anyway, I didn't mean to go off that long. I want to share some garden advice. I guess you'll just have to tune in next week to the Mountain Gardener. We're here every weekend. We just promote gardening at higher elevations of Arizona.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona, with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Gardening has always come natural to me. Green thumbs, they just run in the family. So when the Family Garden Center was offered to Lisa and I, we jumped on the opportunity. I've always loved coming to the nursery, being surrounded by all the beauty, helping the backyard gardener, and passing on some of that natural magic that happens so easily for me. We aren't just selling plants, we're offering garden success. My name is Ken Lane, owner, and you'll feel the magic here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.